Hey guys, welcome to Monday night. I'm gonna give it a minute for Shakti to hop on and other people to hop on. And I'm gonna share this out and do all the things that we always do on Mondays. And then we'll get started. And hopefully we don't have technical issues this time. Last time we couldn't get the orientation right on our videos. So we're just waiting for Shakti. There she is. Hope it works this time. Hope it works this week, Shakti. Yay!
Yay! I'm having all kind of weird situations with my phone and
The first hurdle. We've made it over the first hurdle tonight.
actually the way we're supposed to be. So we're already winning something.
Yeah.
I'm gonna turn this light over here. My lighting in my office really need to get it together. My office needs to get it together. I'm gonna grab some sage spray because I'm gonna need that shit tonight.
Girl, I have not lit incense since being on the road. Well, since Mississippi, right? And I was unpacking stuff today, and I was like, give me all the things. I was like, lighting incense, lighting sage, sticking crystals in my bra, dousing myself in oils. I was like, just all the things.
I just misted the shit out of with my aura cleansing mist. Just sprayed myself down for a revival. Oh my God, this moon. Oh, I haven't cried this much since I was like 15 years old. I forgot what it was like to have these many emotions in my body.
Oh God.
It's like been all day crying. Cry fest. That's what it's been today. Anybody else crying all day long? Because that's what my life's been like for the past.
No, but I feel like that's been like my last 2 years. So I'm like, welcome to my life.
It's been really intense. So say hi when you're hopping on. I'm about to share this out to my page. So I know Ann just did as well. Tag your peeps, share the video, make sure people get on. I just want to give Ann and myself a shout out because, I mean, we pride ourselves on being really real. And so we're going to be real with you right now and say neither one of us wanted to do this today because we are struggling with our own shit, which hence the topic of this video. We are both deep in our own processes. It is very uncomfortable to go public and talk to people and be very real about what's going on in your life and then go ahead and help others process through that when you're still in it. It takes an incredible amount of self-awareness and also like a really strong desire to serve to even be here tonight. So I just want to give us a shout out and recognize that because it is real intense right now for different reasons in our lives. And here we are still doing the thing.
Yep. And I've heard other coaches talk about this, right? That you know the mark of a good coach when they show up to serve and you have no clue that they're going through their own shit. Because they're able, not that they are shoving it down, but we put our shit at the door, right? We set our baggage down at least for a minute to be able to show up and serve in the way that Shakti and I both really desire to show up and serve. We've committed to this and we've committed to this for a reason because we know that, if we're going through it, everyone else is going through it as well. So that's why we're here.
Especially during this moon. Oh my God. I made a video on my personal profile about this moon today because I just had to get it out. I was driving to go drop off my kid and I'm like, we need to talk about this because this moon is making me crazy. Oh my God. That Scorpio energy is just amplifying every fucking feeling on the planet. If you ever had a feeling, it's coming up right now. If ever at any point in time there was a feeling inside of your body, it is resurfacing. Jesus.
I was sitting
Tell
at
me
the,
that isn't true. Tell me that's not happening to you right now.
no, I was sitting at the gas. It was funny. Okay, so I've heard about other people experiencing anger, right? And I was like, I'm not experiencing anger. I'm pretty calm, pretty chill. I'm good. The only thing I thought I was experiencing was like extreme exhaustion. Last night I got home at 6, and I was like, I could not keep my eyes open. I was like, I thought I was just getting up at 4:30, and I was like, that seems bizarre. It's only 30 minutes early. Like, it shouldn't matter. But I was like dying at 6 o'clock, and by 9 o'clock I was passed out. Well, then today I heard about, obviously the emotions, but anger. Like, a lot of people are experiencing anger, and I was like, I'm good. Like, I'm pretty balanced. And then I go to the gas station, and it's like everyone and their mother is at the gas station today. So there's like lines, right? And I'm like circling around, and finally I park, and I somehow parked behind like the slowest line, and it's like all of a sudden it was just triggered. I was like, what the fuck is going on? I was like so pissed about a line at the gas station. And I was like, all right, full moon, you win.
And you know where else it's coming out? In relationships, because I've been annoyed as shit at my husband like all day long. Everything he said was the wrong thing. It didn't matter what the fuck was coming out of his mouth. I'm like, that is the wrong thing. You realize what you're saying is the wrong thing. It's wrong. It's wrong. It is wrong. I don't even care what it's about. We're out of toilet paper. That is the wrong thing to say. Why would you say that immediately? That's Robin. Some shit.
These are the moments.
Right,
these are the moments I'm grateful to not be in a relationship. I'm just pissed at the cats, then, apparently, you know.
I gotta grow with you, homie. Damn.
Yeah.
But it's a blessing too, because it's a huge mirror, and that's like my relationship to my kid and my partner is a mirror. And right now, this moon is really amplifying a lot of the relationships in our lives as well. It's not just about the general emotions you're having, but what's going on in your relationships, in your most intimate relationships, what's happening, what's being amplified, because that's there for you to look at. So we know that, so that's why we're here to talk about this. And the word experimentation we use very deliberately. I was really feeling that word when Anne was like, what are we going to talk about? I was like, I'm really feeling the word experiment. That was like a very strong word in my consciousness. And what I talked about a little bit on the video that I did on my personal page, which was about the moon in particular, and I started channeling sort of like 5 minutes into the video. It was just like a download of information. I was like, I was not planning on talking about any of this. I just wanted to share how I was sad about dropping off my kid at school, and now here we are talking about epigenetics. All right, like, whatever. That's the life of a channeler. So I'm talking about, how we are changing on a physical level. We are actually changing on a DNA level. Hey, Abby. Oh, thanks for hopping on at all to say hi. That's awesome. So I talked about how we are changing on a DNA level as the Earth has gone through this transition, and it has evolved and it has rebirthed itself into a fifth dimensional existence. We are going along with her. We are also evolving, and part of what's happening is our DNA is being unwound, we're being opened up, and we're being rearranged in alignment with this new energy force that is coursing through our experience of planet Earth. So a lot of things are uncomfortable, and a lot of things are changing and shifting, and a lot of things that we thought we had dealt with are coming to the surface because we haven't actually. We've just kind of pocketed them away, and they're still somehow like hiding in ourselves and causing dissonance and also causing limitation and limiting beliefs, and we don't even know it, because we've so convincingly stored them away. So a lot of that is what's happening right now. That's what had come through, and it's concordant with what I learned from other people that I follow who channel as well. So I just wanted to drop those nuggets of wisdom in here so that kind of explain how the idea of experimenting with your life and the significance of being willing to experiment with your life came up for me.
Can you hear me even though you can't see me?
I can hear you. I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, perfect. Because I see on my computer there's like no video, so as long as you can hear me, that's all that matters.
Oh.
Can you see me on your phone? Okay, well on the computer it just shows like a blurred screen on my side, so I don't know what's going on.
I think you froze. That's what happened. Because I see an image of you, but it looks like still shot.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, you guys will get the audio tonight of me. That's fine.
You still there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes,
Okay.
I can hear you.
All right.
Just checking.
Yeah. Well,
just checking.
and
I can't see you, so I'm like, is she there? I don't know.
And then Anne left Shakti all on her own.
Whatever, man. I roll with that, you know.
No, I promise you I'd be here. I'm gonna be here till the end, Shakti. No, so we talked about experimentation. We talked about experimentation with our bodies, which is something that Shakti and I have really worked on in our own, fitness journey and nutritional lifestyle and all of that. But obviously experimentation in your life can go beyond just the physical piece of it. But it's really important because I know that, again, speaking of the full moon, one thing that's come up for both of us is what's being resurfaced is emotional eating. And both of us kind of, I say, pride ourselves on the fact that we've worked very diligently in working through our addictions, our sugar addictions, our food addictions, our emotional eating. And so when we come to a point where it becomes resurfaced, we're like, well, what the fuck? And it's really easy to get angry, frustrated. And this is where you wanted to say, fuck it, right? And there's a way to say fuck it that is productive, and then there's a way to say fuck it that's non-productive, right? So if you're struggling with emotional eating, for example, and you say fuck it, but then you give into the emotional eating and eat everything in sight, that's not productive, right? But if you say fuck it, I'm done battling myself in this way. I'm done shaming myself. I'm done allowing this to be a struggle, and I'm done with the resistance of it, right? I'm done with the resistance of the emotional eating. And you say, fuck it, I'm ready to just release the resistance and give into the ease and flow of it and be gentle and kind and loving with myself. That is a very productive way to use fuck it, right? So I know that this is an area where, so right now, we're both looking at this, okay, emotional eating is coming back up for us. So how do we address it? And how do we look at our nutrition in a way that is long lasting and feels good? And, we've both experimented with plant-based lifestyles. We've both experimented with paleo. We've experimented with gluten-free. We've experimented with adding gluten back into our diet. We've experimented in kind of all areas. And we've talked in previous episodes about finding the joy in the process and allowing yourself to get curious. And when you allow yourself to get curious and find the joy in the process, that's when you begin to really release that resistance. And so allow yourself to experiment with, even though maybe, 2 years ago, this was the best diet and lifestyle for my body. Our bodies are changing, right? We're changing and evolving. And so allowing yourself to experiment and get curious without the pressure of it has to work a certain way, or if it doesn't work, or if I gain weight, or if I, go backwards, quote unquote, then I've somehow failed. If you can release that, then the journey is going to be a lot more enjoyable.
I feel like a lot of times we find comfort in established routines, even when they stop working for us. There's this sense of familiarity and comfort. And that happens with a lot of things. It happens with relationships, it happens with diet plans or, nutritional programs, even exercise. I mean, I can't tell you how many people who are like, yeah, I've been doing the same routine for a really long time. I'm like, oh, are you seeing results? And they're like, no, I'm not yet where I really want to be, but it's, it's what I do. And I'm like, you might want to consider doing something else, because that's not going to get you the results you're wanting. But we tend to take comfort in these patterns and these habitual ways of being. And I think that keeps us really small. It's also what keeps us from wanting to explore anything, explore different countries or explore different relationships or whatever. It just keeps us really tightly wound and doesn't really allow us to learn or to grow. And so when we talk about experimenting with your life, and specifically the topic came up around body because of the whole emotional eating conversation. I have experimented with so many different ways of eating, and every time that I start to get triggered about my body, I immediately jump into like curiosity and experimentation. I immediately go into with like, okay, well, what could I do in this moment to help me feel ease? Like, what way of nourishing feels more like ease and less like struggle or work, right? Or what brings me more calm if I'm eating this way versus the stress or anxiety of eating another way. And for a while, it was really plant-based, was really working well for my body until I decided I wanted to get super fit. And what I discovered in my journey of wanting to get super fit is that I had to eat a ridiculous amount of meat substitute, which has a lot of preservatives and a lot of soy. And I did not want to eat it to get the equivalent in protein that I would have otherwise to see the definition that I wanted. And another coach of mine, who's also a personal trainer, said the same thing. She said that this has always been her struggle with being super fit, is that she cannot receive the equivalent amount of protein in the plant world without eating these substitutions that don't work well in her body. So being willing to have an open mind about what your body may be needing to see certain results or to accomplish certain things in your body, certain healing or whatever, is really important. And I've had a lot of friends who were vegan, like hardcore vegan, all of a sudden turned ketogenic, and that is like not vegan. I mean, you eat plants. You eat plants in the keto diet, but you eat a lot of fat and you eat protein, like animal protein. Like that's part of that lifestyle. And they did it for health reasons, and they're doing really well. They're thriving because their particular condition required that they change out of what they were used to. And it was a tough choice because they had a spiritual background that supported the vegan lifestyle, but it wasn't working for them. I also know a woman who had several miscarriages as vegan, who was very educated as a vegan woman. She knew how to eat a balanced lifestyle and was vegan for 12 years, and she kept losing children. And then when she changed her lifestyle, she was pregnant within a month, and she has held the pregnancy the entire time because her body needed animal protein. It wasn't responding to veganism, no matter what she personally felt she wanted to do, you know? And had she never done that, she wouldn't be carrying the child she's carrying today. She would have continued to suffer loss. So those are just a couple of examples that I want to offer of the power of being willing to experiment and not getting trapped by a dogma or, you know, an old belief system that may not be serving you anymore.
I know this is completely like not on the topic of nutrition and whatnot, but it also reminds me, and obviously because we labeled this experimenting through the journey, which is just the journey of life anyway. But Shakti and I talked a lot about relationships when I was there this past weekend, and specifically my own relationships and patterns in my relationships. And Shakti and I have known each other for a very long time. She's seen me through a lot of relationships. She's seen me through a lot of my patterns. She's seen me through a lot of the endings of my relationships and how those relationships have ended. And one thing she brought up to me, which I had kind of thought about, but I didn't really think about it, was she said, "Anne, you're really good at manifesting breakups, right?" And I was like, yeah, I'm really, really good at that. Like, I'm really good at creating blow-ups.
I'm exceptional at
like,
breakups.
One of my
like so good.
top-notch skill, A+. So no, I've been really good in, you know, previous relationships of really doing a great job of exploding at the end, creating this breakup, because what comes at the end of a breakup is intense focus on myself, a lot of self-love, a lot of self-care, and all the things that I stopped giving myself in the relationship. And one thing I specifically said to her at the end of my last relationship, which was what, a year and a half ago, I said to her, you know what, I wonder if maybe I'm not supposed to be in a long-term relationship, because it like finally came to me, right? So my whole life, I really thought I really want kids because I'm good with kids, and I just thought that it was what I was supposed to do, right? So I had this vision of being married with kids. Like that was my life plan. I was married, right? I was married at one point, didn't have kids, thank God, but I was married at one point. So I was headed down that path. And then as I was going through my journey and continuing to grow and develop and evolve and change, I started to realize, like, wait a second, I don't think I want children. Like, it became crystal clear. And through that realization as well, and the realization of, I actually want the freedom to be on the road. I actually want the freedom to be independent and traveling and not be attached to someone. The reason I'm now on the road the way that I am is because the first time in my entire life that I haven't had a job that I had to show up for, and I haven't been tied down to a person or a place, right? So it's given me that freedom. And so I was sharing with her at the end of my last relationship, like, maybe I'm not meant to be in a long-term relationship or a lifelong relationship. And at the time, it felt really weird to say that because that had never been a pattern of mine. I've been a relationship hopper. I've gone from one relationship to the next, and they've been really intense, really fast. But now that I've been willing to at least be open to what would that look like? What would that feel like? How does that feel? It actually feels pretty in alignment. And obviously Shakti shared with me some information, from that she was receiving, but it applies to all areas, right? And being willing to get curious and experiment is something. If you notice the same patterns showing up over and over and over and over again, start to get curious, because maybe it's not in alignment with who you are. Your soul is trying to tell you, this lifestyle that you're living is not in alignment with what I want.
Yep. Yep. I'm listening to your story and I'm like, head nod. You're going to hear I had to get up and open the window because it is so warm in my office. And I'm just like, oh my God, I don't know why upstairs is so much hotter than downstairs. It's like the AC just does not work upstairs. I don't know what it is. Anyways, apologies, but I was off screen and you were like, where'd she go? One's frozen, the other one's gone. That's what happened. So I was also sharing about my own relationship history, because I have a pretty dynamic relationship history in the sense that I have had what I consider to be a distinct honor and privilege of having romantic partners that were both male and female. And that has taught me so much about myself and about my relating to different energies and different forms of love and forms of expression. And that was something that I feel I'm proud of the fact that I'm fluid enough to open myself up to have those experiences and really enjoy them and be in them and learn from them. And people are always like, well, like, did you just decide that you were going to like love this person and then just switch over? And it's like when people talk about teams, I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? There's no such thing as a team. Just fucking human beings. Like them or you don't like them. Because that's how my brain works. Like, when I see people, I just see them like as they are. I'm not like, that person is in a human figure or like a woman figure, human woman figure. That person is in a human male figure. That person is in a, brown skin suit or a yellow skin suit or a white skin. Like, I'm not analyzing those physical markers of a person's being. I'm just like, that is that person. Hello, person. Like, that's pretty much how I relate to all human beings. So I feel like grateful that I have the capacity to relate that way to people, because it's led me to so many amazing experiences and really like eye-opening experiences. But I also know that if I didn't have that kind of open-mindedness, I would have never been able to find my way to where I am now. And that is, how Anne was like, I was really good at manifesting breakups. Like, I remained in this pattern of being with female partners for a long time because it's what I knew. It had been my history. I kept meeting awesome people that were women that I loved. And that's just what I did. And had I not asked myself the question, like, does this still resonate with where I am on my journey and what my spirit is longing to connect with, I would have never found my way to the partner I now have and the family I now have, which is where I need to be energetically. But that takes a ridiculous amount of courage, because people want to box you up. They want to like label you and say, this is how this person is. this person is a vegan, this person is gay, this person is whatever, and they want to just label you up and keep you in the little box, and that's where you remain. The end of story. And then if you decide to do something different than in the box, they have no idea how to fucking relate to you, and then they spaz, and then they're like, I don't know what to do, so we're not friends anymore. Like, that's pretty much what ends up happening. They're like, I don't know how to relate to you now.
Yeah.
So I think that also keeps us from experimenting. I think if we didn't feel so much like peer pressure, external pressure to be in a certain way, I'll give you the example that's happening right now in my life. Like, I started incorporating meat back into my diet, and I've had like 3 people comment on my post like, oh, you're eating meat now? Like, what's up with that? And I'm like, I just talked about that in like 4 posts before, but whatever. Like, this is why this is happening. And it's like they want to perceive you as one thing, and if you decide that you're going to experiment and do something else, that's challenging for them. So I think a lot of us kind of resist experimenting because of that also. There's this like external pressure to remain consistent.
Yep.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
In a way of being, you know? And then if we step outside of that, it's like, ugh.
Yeah, I mean, I experienced that on this journey, right? Like, I left Chicago. I was supposed to be in Mississippi for 3 weeks, and then I was supposed to start heading west. Well, I stayed in Mississippi for 8 months and then started heading east. Like, the exact opposite of what the quote-unquote plan was, right? And I consistently have people asking, like, about California, right? And I don't know. I mean, Shakti and I, again, have talked about this very closely in our own relationship. Like, I don't know what's in California. I don't know why California. I don't know when California. I don't know where in California. I don't know. I don't fucking know about California. I just know that it's something that keeps popping up for me. So I'm going to eventually get there and experiment. But for now, this feels good, and I'll stay here until it doesn't feel good anymore. And I feel like that's kind of your marker in anything. Stay in something until it doesn't feel good, and when something doesn't feel good, then you start to get curious and experiment again. And then you find that balance and that comfort level, right? That feels in alignment, not the comfort level that's just like keeping you small, but the comfort level that feels in alignment. And then when it doesn't feel good, you go somewhere else again. Like, it's just, that's life. It's the fluidity of life.
And I think, though, that we are enamored with the myth of a destination. And we are enamored with that myth when it comes to everything. Weight, relationships, everything. Like, we just want to get there. We want to get there.
Yep.
I remember when I used to teach yoga, I was cleaning up the studio when one of my students walked by and she said, hey, quick question. I just want to ask, like, more or less, like, how long is it going to take me to, like, get this? And I busted out laughing because of all things to ask about. Yoga is like the eternal practice. Like, this is like, one of the cornerstone concepts of what we do in yoga is that there's never an end goal game. Like, you're constantly practicing. That's why it's called a practice. It's not called a perfect. You know what I mean? Like, no yogi gets there, right? So I just started laughing because the question was so absurd to me, but it was also so indicative of our general mindset. Like, when am I finally going to, like, be happy in my relationship? When am I finally going to be happy in my body? When am I going to arrive? When am I going to have this set plan that works for me and that I never have to change it ever again? When am I going to, you know what I mean? Like, We just want the prescription. And this is also, I think, what leads us to, like, over-medicating and doing things of that nature, because we just want the fix, and we don't want to understand that it's a process and that it's actually going to evolve, and that you might be changing gears every couple of years in many areas of your life. That's really uncomfortable for a lot of people. But I also think it's like a core part of who we are. Like, we came here specifically to evolve, and we search for things that promote our evolution, right? And we search out people who talk about evolution, i.e. Anne and myself, because we are longing for that. Right? But then we also have this competing dialogue internally that is telling us, like, when are we going to arrive? When am I going to fix it? When is it going to be done? When do I not have to grow anymore?
Yeah. When can I take a breath? And I was sharing a story again when I was with Shakti this weekend about working with a coach of mine um, we learn about our mindset, right? And focusing on the positive thoughts and working your way through the negative thoughts and how to balance that and all of that. One of my questions to her was, so like, what ratio of positive to negative thoughts do you think? Like, I wanted to understand her brain so that I knew if I was on the right path to get there, right? I was like, I just want to know that I'm like on the right track, and that like once I have that ratio figured out, then I'll get the things, right? Because we're always in search for the things, and then I will have arrived, and I won't have to do this shit anymore. And she was like, hold on, let me fucking Google what a ratio is, first of all, And then she was like, Anne, you're missing the entire point. But this is my like A-type personality perfectionism coming out, right? I mean, and it's
Virgo. Virgo. This is your Virgo rising, being like, give me the direct instructions of how to organize my positive to negative thought ratio.
Give me.
I cannot ruin my life. Thank you.
Give me the 5-step process of how to think positively. So that I can duplicate what you're doing, so that I can have the things that you have, so that I can stop.
I can arrive.
So that I can arrive and stop being like, shit, thank you. Yep.
Perfect.
Yep.
And we all do that to some degree. It is intensified given your unique personality traits, your astrological traits, and the things that have happened in your life. Yeah, those that kind of like wanting precision and wanting to arrive may be more or less intense given those factors. But I think as a whole, we do want to arrive. We don't want to believe that we're forever on a journey. We're like, no, please tell me this ends at some point.
Well, exactly, because I mean, I feel like, especially with this full moon energy, like I was thinking today, I was like, oh my God, we have another full moon. Like, when do we get a break from full moons?
I mean, like every month, because that's like what's on the calendar.
I know, but it's just so funny how like those thoughts still come up, right? When you're like, oh my God, another one.
Can we not have any more full moons? Just moon, get a new job.
You're fired. You're fired, moon.
I'm exhausted. You can take a vacation now. Thank you.
Yeah, do we get a moon retrograde at some point?
Oh God, can you imagine? Please, no. Let's not do a moon retrograde, Lord. I don't think anybody would be left standing on the planet. We all like murder each other or lose our fucking minds. Like, no.
I'm crying, and I'm frozen. You can't even see the tears because I'm frozen.
I'm sad that I can't see your tears of laughter. That makes me really sad, actually. I miss your big screen.
I know. One thing I did promise Shakti tonight was that I'd make her laugh. So
you did.
Mission accomplished.
I do feel better. Man, it was rough getting on this video. I'm not gonna lie. It's been a really, really challenging day. But I think it's when this concept of experimentation holds even more water, because we're going to have these moments. We're going to have the moments in our lives where we don't want to get up and do the workout, or we don't want to go to work, or we don't, want to parent a particular day because we're exhausted, or we're just so frustrated with our bodies and what we're seeing happen or not happen in our bodies. And having the capacity to say, I'm going to get curious about this and where can I go from here, is really powerful, because everything is perspective. And if you understand how to change your perspective, you like automatically win. But if you are constantly living in, what does Abraham call it? Abraham has a word for the world of effect, I think it is, when he says like people are just constantly staring at what is already manifested and like obsessing about it, like, but it says this, it says this, it says this, instead of realizing that what they're seeing is an effect. And what they need to be changing is the cause. They need to be focusing on the thoughts that cause the effect, not obsessing over the effect. I think that's really important to remember. And I think being curious and being willing to experiment is how we tap into that causal energy. And we kind of pull away from the world of effect, and what we're seeing that we might not like, we interrupt that signal and kind of shift gears into the world of the causal and say, okay, let me play with my thoughts. Let me play with my actions and see what I can do.
Totally. So yeah, so one thing that I try to remind myself, at least when I'm feeling the intense emotions, is I just try to remind myself it is not that serious. Like,
right.
If I'm really stressing out and I'm like really feeling anxiety and fear and anger and whatever about being at a fucking gas station, like, I'm like, you know what? It is not that serious. Like, life is not that serious. And sometimes we just have to remind ourselves that when we're stressing out about like the most mundane shit, that like we're making it too serious, right? And then in response to what Shakti said, I just had that moment today. I had to go to the pet store to get, cat litter. And I was just observing my thoughts, right? I was observing my thoughts. I was observing my emotions. I was realizing that my financial fears were coming up again, because ego keeps saying like the things that have happened in the past are going to happen again. And so it's been kind of this tape for the last couple days. And as I stood there waiting in line, to pay, and I was just observing my thoughts, I just reminded myself, if you don't like what you see, then go back to your thoughts, which is going back to the cause, right? So what you see in your reality has already happened. What you see like right now in this moment, what appears to be your reality is old news, right? It's old news based on your previous thoughts and feelings. So if you don't like what you see, then instead of focusing on what it is that you see, which is exactly what Shakti was saying, go back to your thoughts. So I just, we pose that question again of, how do I want to feel? And I keep reminding myself, it's not the thoughts, it's the feelings. It's not the thoughts, it's the feelings. So a lot of times we focus on changing our thoughts, which is important, but also continuing to ask yourself, how do I want to feel? How do I want to feel? How do I want to feel? How could I feel that right now? What would it feel like to feel like that? Just keep asking yourself those questions until you shift into the feeling that you want to feel.
And it's, the whole observing your thoughts conversation, I kind of want to hone in on this real quick. We talk about that very like nonchalantly, like it's not a big fucking deal, but it is. So I want to just like zoom in real quick, because this is really important. If you are willing to do this experiment with yourself, you will literally blow your own mind, like so hard. I want you for the next, after you finish watching this podcast, from the time that you are falling asleep and going to bed, and then you wake up and you go along about your day the following day, for the next 24 hours, I want you to really make an effort to pay attention to what you're thinking. I want you to create like an active effort to just listen to what's happening in your mind from a non-judgmental perspective. Just listen to the chatter. Pretty much 95% of the time, you are just talking complete shit to yourself in your mind. You're creating scenarios of drama. You are creating fights with people in your head that you're mad at. Cough partners, cough children, cough bosses. You are listing off random things that you have to get done or that you haven't done. You're beating yourself up for something you forgot to do. You are thinking of an excuse to get out of that wedding invitation you don't actually want to go to. That's what's happening in your brain. Like almost 100% of the time, you are literally just talking complete shit to yourself 24/7. But we do not slow down enough to pay attention to that, so we never catch it. It just kind of rattles on, prattles on, blah, blah, blah. And something that Neville talks about, Neville Goddard, which I love his stuff. He's one of those mystics that just is really mind-blowing in his efficacy to communicate these complex principles, is that what you are actually talking to yourself with, like what those conversation pieces are about, is what shows up in your external reality. And that mental chatter is really closely linked to your emotional, like your emotional pulse, so to speak. So if you take an individual who has that kind of background chatter that happens to be really positive more than 50% of the time, chances are that person is going to be someone that you experience as optimistic and is generally good-natured and in a good mood.
See, that's the ratio. That's the ratio I was looking for.
It's fucking ratio. You're welcome. I don't know. That just was channeled, so there you are. You can rest easy knowing that it has to be 60 or above. Okay. So that's about right. If you experience someone who like more than 50% of the time has negative self-talk and is rattling off arguments and bad situations and whatever, chances are they're going to be pretty ill-tempered and not very good-natured. And I'll give you a very like intimate example of this. I'll get really vulnerable with you guys and talk about like one of my biggest tapes and stories is about being left from a romantic perspective. So I actually think up, this is my history, I think up scenarios where I do get left. And then I play those out literally in my mind like a soap opera drama. That sounds really crazy, I'm aware.
No, because that's me too.
Yes, you too. Okay, so
Yep.
I know more than just me does this. So like I'm not uncomfortable sharing it because I know that this needs to be talked about. And so I'll bring up all these scenarios where I am left or I'm cheated on or something terrible happens, and then I have to like fight my way out of it, right? Or tell them what I think about, like complete make-up scenarios. Where that comes from is from wound, right? It's from being wounded and wanting to perpetuate the wound. And if you're not mindful and you don't control that chatter and really change the dialogue internally, you will manifest that. It is only a matter of time before that chatter becomes your reality.
All right.
And that, I think, is real dangerous.
Okay. So I'm gonna take Shakti's story and I'm gonna up the ante a bit and I'm gonna get even more vulnerable. So because what she said is 100% true and I'm living fucking proof of it. So everything that she said is everything that I did in my last relationship, 100%. And actually in previous relationships as well. But this last relationship was all kinds of lessons. So my ex was overseas for a couple of months for an internship. And I was so convinced that he was going to cheat on me and leave me, right? Because this, again, I have this wound of abandonment from my childhood, and it perpetuated in other relationships. And I have a story and a belief that I've had to work through, that I'm difficult to love and I'm easy to leave. Those have been my two stories for years, right? And so anytime that my reality did not match that story, I had to create a scenario in which my outer world matched that story, right? So in this relationship, I still had those beliefs. I was picking fights, right? Picking fights to prove the fact that I was difficult to love and easy to leave, right? Because I was like, you think I'm easy to love? Let me show you that I'm not. So I was creating scenarios in order for my outer world to match that. So while he was overseas, I was creating these stories, right? From no proof other than in my mind, but playing the tape over and over and over again of all the women that he was interested in, all the women he was cheating on me with, everything that I thought he was doing, right? Creating the stories and then picking fights based on the story that I had created in my mind. And then I took it one step further, right? So this is going to get really ugly, but I don't give a fuck because I know, again, I'm not the only person who has done this. So the next step then was ego comes in. I didn't know what ego was or how to work with ego, so I just listened to that bitch, right? So ego is like, not only is this happening, but you now need to find the proof to prove that this is happening, so that then you can be like, I'm not crazy because I see that this shit is happening. So I hacked into his email account and read through IM messages, read through emails to find whatever proof. When he was home, I was looking through his phone to find any proof that this story was true. And let me tell you that because I had created not only the story, but put a whole lot of energy behind it, there were now snippets and breadcrumbs of possible truth. It wasn't like, it's not like I, caught him in bed with someone. It wasn't that kind of proof, but it was enough proof that ego was able to latch on and say, see, I knew this was true, right? 100%. And hence the ending of the relationship.
And that's what it does. Ego's a detective. I said that in our last video.
Yep.
That's why asking questions is such an effective way of like deterring the ego from like ruining your whole life. Like giving it a question to mull over, because ego's a detective, and when it's in the shadow place, which is what you were just describing, it's going to look for proof of what it wants to prove true. And it's going to want to prove true whatever you are constantly talking to yourself about on a regular basis inside of your mind. And most of us have no idea what's happening in there because we never pay attention. We don't slow down enough to like really listen to like, what am I actually thinking right now? It just becomes like background noise.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think I've ever shared that story publicly.
Yeah. No, I don't think you have either, like publicly. Like we've talked about it, but I don't think you have either. But we have really similar takes, and that's unsurprising. I mean, we have pretty parallel stories in general, but a lot of us do. This is not unique to you and I. A lot of us do, just a lot of us don't know. Yeah. A lot of us don't genuinely know. I remember the first time I heard the background chatter, like without it being background, like I heard it up front, I was like horrified. I was like, oh my God, that's what my brain sounds like. I'm a mess. I need all kinds of stones because I am a mess. And it's only when I started to hone in on the practice again, why meditation is really valuable. The real reason that meditation is valuable is because it teaches you to be the observer. That's what it is so good at doing. It teaches you how to observe your thoughts so that you can understand you are not them. You are not them. They are an energy stream coursing through you, but you are not your thoughts. And meditation teaches you how to have that separation and how to pay attention to that, which then allows you to pay attention to the background chatter during your everyday life when you're not sitting with your eyes closed on a cushion. Like it lets you do it all the time. And it's really powerful because that is the secret to changing your experience of reality. That right there. That is like everything.
Yeah, and Shakti and I talked over the weekend about things that have we've finally integrated things into our life that we can't even remember what it felt like. To have kind of those old patterns or the old energy of certain things. And as she's talking about this, I'm like, I'm at the point now, I mean, I think we're both at the point now, right, where we're so aware of our thoughts that we can't even imagine not being aware of our thoughts. And so it's sometimes hard to remember that, like, oh yeah, there was a time when we weren't aware. There was a time when we weren't the observer of our thoughts. There was a time when we weren't meditating. I mean, when I first started meditating, I told Shakti, like, I don't want to meditate. She's like, why? I was like, because I just keep crying, I didn't want to do it, but I had to get through that in order to get to where I'm at now. So there will come a time. Right now, no matter where you're at in your journey, there's something that feels really heavy. There's something that feels like you can't just see, like you can't, no matter how hard you try, you can't seem to get over it. No matter where you're at in your journey. Shakti and I have that too, where there's something in our journey where it feels like we can't seem to get past it. It doesn't matter whether you're at the beginning or the middle, but as you continue on the journey, there's going to continue to be things as you grow through them where you're like, man, I can't even imagine what it used to be like to have that energy or to have those thoughts or to do that thing, because it just, evolves over time. So just keep going with it, because you will get to that place as long as you keep showing up.
Yep, that. So to match this whole conversation up with something that's actually actionable and will assist you with experimentation, we actually have a very exciting announcement, which we have kind of been breadcrumbing for like, I don't know, weeks now.
Yeah.
So we realized that having something actionable is really important. we also realize that while these conversations are great, you're going to go back into your life and you're going to be like, what do I do with these conversations that I just had? So we created something that we call the mastermind, and we put it together. It's not like group coaching. We are also participating in it. So it's just a shared space. We will be facilitating the space, yes.
Yep.
But it's not going to be quite like group coaching. It's going to be a little bit different. It's a newer concept, a more egalitarian perspective on group coaching, I feel. So yes, we finally created it. It is live. Their group is there. There is a button to join and participate. And would you like to add anything to that?
I had something and then it totally slipped. Totally went away. Just talking.
Okay. That happens.
Just talking about how it's different, right? So a lot of times in group coaching, and I think Shakti and I have both been a part of group coaching programs where you're in group coaching and there might be live calls, but then you're kind of expected to do the things on your own, and then it's up to you to show up and share the thing, right? Either share the homework or share what your journey, but it's really easy to slip into the background and kind of be a wallflower and be like, I don't really have to do the work, right? So we wanted something that really takes you through the process of the personal growth journey. And so we will be going live every single week. It's going to be on Wednesday afternoons. We're going to be going live, showing up together like this, with you guys actively showing up, and we'll be taking you through either a process or an activity or a journaling prompt where you're actually doing the work during the call. And sharing in that moment so that you can get live feedback right away. Now, if you can't make it live for scheduling reasons, that's okay. You can watch the replay. But we wanted to make sure that we were really there kind of holding your hand and guiding you through it, because we know that a lot of you guys are very much at the beginning, and you have the knowledge, you have the awareness, but you're in the now what stage, right? Okay, I have all this information. I notice my patterns. I'm very aware. Now what? How the fuck do I implement it? You're at the how the fuck do I implement it stage, which we know so well. And so we're here to help guide you through to help you implement it. So
yes, so it is going to be a group on Facebook. It's called Behind the Suck, a mastermind group, just to help you guys get behind the suck and to know that our support outside of just being on here for a little bit with you guys and sharing our truths. So there is a button.
Yep, I'm gonna. Yes, I've created the PayPal link. I'm gonna post it after the fact, and it's $88. So $88 a month. It'll be an automated. You can obviously cancel any time if for whatever reason you feel like you don't need it anymore, don't want it anymore. You're not locked into anything, which I think is often a pretty common question.
Yes, but it is a way for you to get more direct time with us outside of just sitting and watching. So that is officially live. If you're interested and the link doesn't work for you or whatever, please comment below and we will help you guys out. But that's what we have created for you guys, for everyone who messages and was like, I want to work with you guys. What do I do? Here it is.
Here it is. We're offering it.
It happened. All right. So thanks so much for hopping on. Those of you who did, if you're watching the replay, let us know that you're watching the replay and where you're watching it from, so we can say hi to you individually. As always, have a fantastic Monday night, and thanks for always coming on here and sharing with us. We do our best to bring our truth bombs and our real life struggles to you guys, and to just process them with you and to share with you the nuggets of wisdom that we brought with us along the way.
All right, guys. Have a good night.